All right, should we get started? You folks want to take a seat and we'll get started so we can get out of here. My name is Tom, sir. I'm with RioVision. This is one of a series of monthly gatherings that we've held since we began 10 years ago.
I'm not sure that's Mike's one.
And
I just need to talk through it, yeah, like this. Sorry.
So we're really happy to have these folks here with us today from California State Parks. With us is Clint Elsholz, who is the district superintendent for the whole region, which is very large actually, and it includes our...
Both of the mics work.
Flip it on,
If you turn it on.
and that's the talk.
Testing.
Yeah. And on the mics you want to go like this. This way you can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. As Tom said, I'm Clint Elsholz. I'm the district superintendent for the Diablo Range District. I guess, Megan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan Harrison. I'm the district planner for the Diablo Range District, although I'm really focusing on Delta Parks for a lot of my time.
So thanks for having us. How this came about is recently we knew that Tom had done some outreach on getting some community engagement at Brannon Island, and in speaking with Tom, he came out and toured the park with us, and we were able to show him some of the projects that we're going to talk about here today. But one thing that became clear is that we weren't getting enough information about what State Parks is doing at Brannon Island. So Tom invited us to come speak to everyone, and we're excited to do that. Just a little bit about the district, because I always like to kind of frame State Parks organization and how it's structured. So the entire state is divided into 21 districts, and we're in the Diablo Range District. And then so we'll go through our slide deck, and then at the end, any questions really about Brannon Island, we're more than happy to talk about. So state parks in the Delta, these are all in our district. So I'm sure you're familiar with each one of these, but we'll touch on that. So Brannon Island, subject today. French Tract, so almost completely underwater. We run a duck blind program out there. No staff are assigned to that unit, but if we do, when we do manage that unit or do activities there, they usually leave and launch from Brannon Island. Then Delta Meadows Park, which we'll get into, but is undergoing the general plan classification process currently. And then real close by in Locke is the Locke Boarding House Museum, ran by Locke Boarding House Foundation, but we actually own the house itself.
I will say the Locke Foundation.
Locke Foundation.
They
Locke
do more
Foundation.
than the boarding house.
All right.
All right.
Take this one.
Yeah, so we received funding for WCI to hire staff, and it has taken us a long time to get to the place where today I actually had some interviews. Okay, sorry, thank you. We are hoping to hire 3 facility staff and 3 interpretation staff. So the facility staff will work on establishing trash service at Delta Meadows, work on helping out on different WCI projects. They'll work with our youth corps that's doing projects in these parks. And then our interpretation staff will set up programs for school-age kids, ports. I don't know if you guys know our kind of remote video programming, as well as interpretation options for all the public, possibly new panels and guided walks and that kind of thing. So we are very excited to be able to launch these. We've had our first interviews for some of the staff today, tomorrow, and then we'll continue. We've got a couple more positions that haven't posted yet, so if you're interested, there will be more job opportunities coming, but we're very excited to be in a place where we can start hiring.
And this is exciting because in 2012, during our budget struggles, challenges, I should say, we went to a concession model for Brannon Island, which most of you probably heard about or know about. We're on to our second concessionaire. So us hiring staff out there is not something that's been very common, but what this funding has allowed us to do is augment the concessionaire, will allow us to do is augment the concessionaire's operations with some of this staff here. So we're just going to be enhancing parts of the operation that the concessionaire is also responsible for.
And the next slide, we can talk more about that.
Yeah. All right. So the improvements that are planned specifically with the WCI money, we have new fencing and gates, parking lot repairs, restroom updates. If you are familiar with the marina, we are evaluating and upgrading the marina. I think anyone that's done permitting in the Delta understands it's not any sort of small feat to rebuild a marina, so we're doing that. We're looking at new cabins. How about you pick up the swim beach? Go ahead.
Yeah, and I will just add to the marina. I know I've heard from some feedback that there are a lot of marinas in the Delta, and this will be like a boat-in camp kind of situation, a little bit different from other marinas in the area. But the swim beach, if you have been out in the last couple of years, it's been overtaken by blackberry. So we've recently had a crew come through and do an initial clearing, and we're going to have a couple more seasons of clearing to try and get all the blackberry out. But right now, if you go and take a look, you can actually see and get to the water all along the swim beach. So it's WCI dollars in action. And so then we're also going to try and do some native plantings along the shoreline, and there are invasive like arundo and blackberry and other locations that we'll try and get rid of and improve access. And then new interpretive signage in collaboration with local tribes. So we're going to be trying to develop possibly some interpretive walks that are themed through collaboration, talk about native plants in the area and possibly do some planting. So we're excited to collaborate with them, and many more. We've got some exciting re-roofing projects. We're re-roofing our maintenance building, but we're also going to add solar to the bathrooms, so that'll help reduce the cost for the park to operate, and just be more eco-friendly, and many more. It's hard to.
RV, you want to say?
Oh yeah, we're looking into. So right now, we are looking into what we can accomplish with the funding that we have. So we have goals of building some new camping cabins, a visitor center, and possibly a better water access on the Windy Cove side, and adding more full RV hookups. We are not sure that our funding is going to stretch that far. So we're working on getting concept designs for all of those, and then we'll try to decide how we can get the money to make the biggest difference for our park and the users. But all of those are hopes that we have, and if we can't get them done with this round of funding, we'll have concept designs that we can go out and apply for more grants.
Yeah, the RV, one of the questions we're looking at is just how you could do the hookups and how the lift stations and everything would work. So, open question. If you have to put in a lot of lift stations, and all of a sudden the money starts getting pretty big. All right, so that was Brannon Island. So I think the cool thing is that things are already happening, right? There's some fencing going on at Brannon Island. There's the swim beach, and there's also been some things happening at Delta Meadows. Even though our bulk of our allotment's going to be going to planning and getting the general plan in place, which is a plan that's required for any unit, but some of the actual physical things taking shape on the ground are rehabbing the parking lot, fixing the fencing, the boundary fencing and the parking lot fencing, doing some vegetation trimming along the levee, which is important for recreation, but also for fire agencies to respond. And then some interpretive signing in collaboration with some of the local tribes, which is also happening at Brannon Island. And then trash services, so something we haven't had out there is trash service, at least not since 2012. So looking to do that as well.
And I'll add on trash service, we have a group of very dedicated volunteers who go out and walk the park regularly and collect trash and have arranged for it to be picked up. And they have done this for years, and they've asked repeatedly, when will there be trash service again? So we are so excited that the interviews I had today are going to hire the staff that are going to start that process. So that's in the near future. We're also hoping to add a chemical toilet and do some habitat restoration work as well. And then for Locke, I don't think that I've got it on other slides. Locke Boarding House, we're also doing some minor repairs, adding some curatorial supplies, repainting the building. So there's additional improvements over there. And then we've got more on the general plan.
Okay. I'll let you say. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, Delta Meadows State Park began to be planned in the 60s as a dream. And we acquired the railroad portion of the park finally in 1985. And then we grew the park continually until I think our last acquisition was in 1999. And we opened it for hiking with the idea that we would plan the future, and we never got the funding to do that until now. So we're very excited to finally be able to plan, and that process involves a classification, which basically says what type of park it is. So Frank's Tract and Brannon Island are state recreation areas. Mount Diablo State Park is a state park. We have state beaches. We have state wildernesses. So we look at the conditions that are there, what type of recreation the ground can support, and what the community also wants. And we'll come up with a classification for the park. And then we'll also plan what do people want to see out there? Do people want to walk their dogs on the trails? Do people want to be able to get down to the water for a boat launch? Do people want to be able to have bird viewing and overlooks? Or there's just listening to what people want, looking at what natural resources are there and cultural resources that we need to protect, and coming up with a cohesive plan to try and find that sweet spot. So that takes 3 to 5 years for state parks to do that plan, and we are about to come around to the end of the first year. We started it in July. So we've done a lot of inventorying, we've had some initial meetings and surveys, but it's not too late to get involved. We are going to come back out with concepts in the next few months, I would say, to say, here's what we heard, here's 3 ideas based on what we heard. What does everybody like about these ideas? What do people not like about them? And get everybody's feedback, and then take that back and hone it back down into a stronger single concept and take that back out to everybody. So if you're interested in learning what's happening, if you want to get involved, we really want a park that meets the needs of the community. So we really want to hear what people want. Please visit plandeltameadows.com. All right.
And these plans are really important for when we go to do projects. That's the first question that we have to answer is there a general plan approved for this unit? And if there's not, then capital funds and positions won't follow until you actually have the plan. So this sets us up for the vision, what is the plan, but then also the development and additional resources. So important step.
Yeah, a lot of people say, when can we have more rangers out here? And once we have the plan, we'll be able to justify better why we need more of that kind of staffing as well.
Yeah.
So I think this is the last slide that we've got. It's the timeline.
Okay. So it is, we are in 2025, so we've already, as we mentioned, started the process. The funding needs to be expended by 2028.
2027.
2027, okay.
This is misleading. Sorry,
Okay,
everybody.
okay. All right, do you want to walk through? Go
Sure.
ahead.
Yeah, so we began some projects in 2024. There's a lot of paperwork that was completed successfully to get us teed up to go here in 2025. So we began some work, fencing repair, the shoreline clearing and vegetation trimming, and the parking lot at Delta Meadows. I encourage you all to visit. It might not look that special to you, but it looks so much better than what was there. I'm very proud every time I go. So for 2025, we're working on fog sealing and repainting some of the main parking lots. We have a contract that is soon to be finalized to replace the exterior gates and fencing. We'll continue the interior symbolic fencing repair and that shoreline restoration. We are planning to have restroom updates, so we'll be replacing the fixtures, putting in push button showers, and trying to make things look a little bit fresher, because there are old facilities. And then Delta Meadows fencing replacement and the Locke boarding house painting. So that's this year. Next year, we are planning to have prepared and be ready to launch year-round interpretive programs with the staff we're hiring. And the Delta Meadows fencing replacement is on here twice, just in case we didn't do it all. I apologize for that. So hopefully we'll have already done that, but if not, it'll still be there. We're also continuing to work on some of the major projects that we think are going to take the longest. So the visitor center construction, the marina replacement, and the RV campground updates, and a stronger interpretive plan are all long-term, multi-step, multi-permit projects. So those we'll be working on throughout, hope to complete, by 2027. The funding needs to be in contract, encumbered by June 2027, which is a fancy way to say we have some wiggle room of spending it after that if we've already attached it to something. So there's a possibility some of that could continue to be used after June, but we're going to try and have everything complete by then, and then have the inter-programs that we've established and kind of developed a plan for can continue to be run by staff that we have if we've been able to find some additional funding, or volunteers. We're also hoping to invest in those during this time and have some that may be able to take over some of this programming.
What's our total investment?
We got about $16 million.
So, considerable amount of investment in this. So that's the end of our slide deck. So, take any questions on these projects or anything else going on?
Where did the grant funding come from, and how long did it take you to get those grants?
Yeah, so do you have, I can talk generally. The Central Valley Plan established a need for funding like this, and then I believe at some point the legislature set aside money for this, and then it took a while for them to decide how it was going to be spent, and so some of it was to internal state parks grants to help provide better facilities where there already were locations near the Central Valley. And that's how they sent out a call that was very quick turnaround time. And staff put everything together based on our hopes and dreams and what was needed out there.
I think I learned of the funding in late 2022. So we were able to put, you came on in 2023. So it really helps having someone to champion these projects and manage it like Megan's been able to do, and that's why you're seeing so much progress. But yeah, from 2022 to present is basically we secured the funding in probably a year from that date, and then now we're actually got implementation. There was an early slug of money that came out that they wanted to get moving quicker. So that's kind of what's funding some of these early days projects. So.
Is Big Break in your district?
I'm sorry, what?
Big Break? Is that in your district?
No, that's East Bay Parks.
It does fall within the boundaries of our district, but it's by our rival. Just kidding, they're great. They're wonderful.
Yeah, different agency. even though we have property that they manage, so we're pretty close. Yes, sir.
Can you just put up the map? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
What
looked
do,
at
what do you mean by interpretive programs, and how do they relate to tribal leaders?
So interpretive programs, we're envisioning guided hikes. Well, they'll take many forms. So we're going to refresh interpretive panels. We want to do guided hikes. We want to bring school groups out. And so we're going to end up, usually what a state park has is an interpretive master plan that talks about what messages we want to have, what themes, and how are we going to distribute that information. So once the visitor center is fully operational, we didn't talk much about a visitor center, but once that's fully operational, we see it taking school groups, and then they're going to learn about the cultural resources, the natural resources, and the tribal resources. So we're really trying as a department to engage with the tribes more to get their stories incorporated into the entire story that we tell of California and the lands here. So working with them and the local tribes. I don't know which tribes here. Is it Northern Valley Yokids?
No, so Wilton and Rancheria is one of the tribes that we've been talking with, and Yochadehi is another tribe, especially on the Brannon Island side. It's a little bit closer.
Okay. So we've been doing that throughout state parks, is really trying to integrate their story and meeting with them on a regular basis. So did that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just studying, trying to figure out the map, because the only part of it that I think that I've been on before is if you start down the bottom of the yellow line, the bottom left-hand corner, and go up. So just like that little trapezoid area there, I think is the only part.
Yeah, so the
that I'm
parking
familiar
lot
with.
is right here, and these are the Delta Channel cross gates. So this is Walnut Grove, and you cross right over this bridge and take an immediate right, even though there's no signs. But we're working on that. And here's the newly aggregated parking lot. And then from there, this is the only official entrance. There are some neighbors who have paths who go in. We ask that you not trespass. And from there, the levee goes out to where it stops about here, or you can go on this levee to this corner, or you can go kind of around this way. Currently, those are the only trails that are workable at this time.
Did you say you were putting up signage for the parking lot?
That is our goal. So we don't own the land near the road, so that's going to take a little bit more coordination to get signs right by the road. But we are working on replacing some of the signages and making it just a little bit clearer where people should go. And this is open, so you can come and walk here, and soon there will even be trash service.
What you take in to carry out.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make a few comments from the point of view of an uninformed resident, because a lot of what you heard today, I mean, I've known about Brannon Island, but a lot of what you heard today is new to me. And it's so exciting to hear that there's actual funding and people on the ground, and there's concrete plants, and it's happening. Very, very exciting. There's a lot of history, especially with Brannon Island. We've encountered many people. We had in January, we had another gathering about the state park where we were trying to recruit some volunteers to help out in the park. And we actually got sign-ups of about a dozen people who were willing to do that. And I think some of them are going to be going out and doing cleanups with our litter pickers. You probably maybe heard of the litter pickers. They're doing a cleanup day out on Brannon Island March 22nd. So talking to people, there are people, as you know, who have been in this area for generations. And many of them we've talked to have very fond memories of the old days, when they would use Brannon Island before it kind of got neglected for a few years. In fact, my own family, when our kids were little and we lived in Oakland, we would come out here to go to Brannon Island because they had a nice beach. And the thing about that beach is it's safe for the little ones. You know, it's not a swift current out there. You wouldn't dare put your kids into the Sacramento River off of Sandy Beach or something, right? But out there it's very safe, and it's all getting cleaned up. So we put out this flyer hoping that parents, grandparents, campers, boaters, hikers, dog walkers, fishermen, open water swimmers, and just general lovers of the outdoors would really have a look at Brannon Island. There's a lot of stuff out there for you to enjoy. There is a $10 day use pass that you have to pay when you go in. But if you live here in Rio Vista or the Delta region, and you want to use that park as a regular thing to walk, you're not supposed to walk your dog. That's official state policy. But in fact, I walk my dog all the time over there. So it's $10 for the day, but you can get a year pass, calendar year, so for 2025, specifically to Brannon Island, just that one part. I think it's $50 for that one, and so hey, that's worth it. I've got a pass because we will go out there. So you can bring your kids, your grandkids, or whatever, and really enjoy the park. I strongly recommend if you haven't been out there to see it, have a look. It's really quite enjoyable, and it's right in our backyard. It's our park.
So you said it's currently concessioned, is that right? So does that $50 go to the state, or does it go to the concession, or where does it go?
My understanding is that it's with the concession. It stays with the park, and I guess the concessionaire.
Yeah, that's part of the agreement. The concessionaire would get that fund, and then the concessionaire is obligated to put dollars back into the unit itself. So it's part of that structure.
Any other questions? I also wanted to, as an uninformed resident, to tell you that hearing about Delta Meadows was a revelation. I had no idea there was a second park. And it's actually not a park. It's so undeveloped, they call it a state park property. It hasn't been given one of those categories of state recreation or state park or any of those things. But it's just, as you heard from Megan, they're just putting it together. And so this is the time. And for dog walkers who, Megan kind of referred to this, for those of us who want a place to walk our dogs, and if you live in Rio Vista or almost anywhere, there's really no walking trails. When I moved out here, it was like, well, where do I walk the dog? Other than around the neighborhood. So, put in your comments and say, we'd like, to be able to walk our dogs out there, officially. I mean, I understand no one's gotten busted yet for for doing it unofficially. But, so anyway, that's such a, I've only seen the pictures because I couldn't find that little parking lot. And I will go out there, but from the pictures it looks like there's kind of almost like a forest environment. Heavily canopied and in the Delta. Did you know there was a forest in the Delta?
I've walked this.
Well, you're one of the few people who's actually gone out and discovered it.
Yeah.
But again, it's right close by, just right outside of Walnut Grove, so it's real close. Anyway, so that's enough.
I think the only other thing I would like to mention is a lot of the work that's being done out here is by a local youth corps group. So if you've heard of the CCC's, California Conservation Corps, there's local groups like that serve the local communities. So the Greater Valley Conservation Corps out of Stockton is actually doing a lot of the work, and we've signed them up for some additional work, and we're going to have more than one crew out there. But it gives people that are 18 to 26 is the age range, and job skills training and opportunity to work in the outdoors. And a lot of times what you hear the feedback from them is they don't go to state parks. They, it's not part of their culture per se, but they really appreciate the opportunity to go out there, and the hopes is that they'll become part of our workforce, or just in general develop skills that will help them through their lives. So it's really been a great partnership, and something that is very inspiring and encouraging when you're working alongside and have another dual goal as you're getting a lot of these things implemented.
Do you have a question?
Well,
If they don't want to pay the $10, can they use the California State Library parking pass, or is that a different thing?
we get back to the group, but I believe they will take the library pass. Yeah, I don't think they're excluded. I think all the passes work out there.
And this is free.
Yeah, Delta Meadows has money. Not yet. When that general plan is passed, we'll develop the fee structure.
I don't want to bring up a sore subject, but the meeting that we had in January, there were some people, mostly fishermen, people who fished off the Brannon Island marina, that were concerned / upset that there were hours that they couldn't launch their boats due to disagreements with the concessionaire. Has that been discussed or dealt with or come to any conclusion?
I mean, we'll definitely listen to any feedback that we have on the concessionaire and the operations. Currently, it's within their purview to set business hours per their contract, and I think their feeling on it is that it would be an additional operational cost that they're not willing to take on at this time. But we could, if there's enough interest, we'll engage and flesh out a path forward, or provide the justification for not doing so. We know there's a lot of people that want access at different hours, but it does create a little bit of a security issue, and people coming and going and that kind of thing. So
It just seems that maybe for like special events, I know one of them was a veterans event, that they maybe special arrangements on that one day.
absolutely, we have a special event program permit process. It's on our website. We could also share that with Tom. But yeah, if anybody wants to do a special event, that's a very specific set time, and we put conditions in there, and it goes through state parks, and we could definitely work through that. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys having us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Listen, let's give these guys a hand. Thanks so much for coming out to Rio Vista and filling us in. And as your planning and progress continues, and you want additional community input, we will do our best.
Thank you.
Beat the drum and get more people out for you to talk to. On that access thing, I think the concessionaire was here, and he did explain, and I went out and looked and talked to some people, and I understand the problem, because they're right off 160, and they've had problems with people coming into the park during off hours and creating mischief. For example, the fishing pier got burned. It was like, what? But anyway, it's being repaired, I think. The fishing pier?
It is temporarily partially open.
Yeah.
While repairs are.
Okay, so there's been mischief out there. So what they do is they close the gate. And in order for people to come in off hours, it would take extra staffing to do that. Someone would have to be on call, call and wake them up in the middle of the night. I want to go out, I want to come back in from my fishing or whatever. So someone would have to get out of bed and go to the gate and open and let them in. So that's my understanding of the issue, that maybe with more staffing, I didn't know you had more staffing coming. That's great. Really good news to have state park staff in addition to the concessionaire.
And they are not to replace the concessionaire or anything, but for the WCI projects. But hopefully they'll be able to work together and support
There
their
you go.
operation.
Okay. All right, unless there's any other questions, then we'll let you all go. You're welcome to hang around a bit.
Can I just
Jane?
make a short
please,
announcement
yes.
about
Yes, yes.
community forums in general? For those of you that just saw a poster and you came, we do this on the second Monday of every month. We have some sort of topic. And next month is going to be a little unusual. We have the Poet Laureate Emeritus from Solano County coming and talking about poetry, which is a little bit different. So I invite you all to put that on your calendar right away.
Okay.
He's here. He's going to be here.
Yeah, they're always here, second Monday, 6 o'clock. So you can kind of look for what we're doing, because there's a series of interesting topics that come up. Okay, so once again, thank you guys so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And again, this will be on YouTube. You know of anyone who might be interested and they didn't see it and whatnot, so tune in. Okay? Thank you.
What exactly is the Locke boarding house? Must be a historic building. What's a museum?
Representative is the boarding house.
We do.